The night everything truly broke, I realized how quietly power can steal a life. Not with shouting or fists, but with smiles, signatures, uniforms, and people who claim they are there for your safety. I never thought my mother-in-law would be the one to orchestrate it, or that my husband would be the one to believe her. But betrayal doesn't always arrive as an enemy. Sometimes it sleeps beside you. It started on a calm Sunday morning, the kind that feels harmless. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, landing softly on the bed where my husband Daniel still slept. I remember watching him breathe, slow and steady, thinking how lucky I was to have built a quiet life after years of chaos. We had been married for 5 years, not perfect, but real. Or so I thought. My phone rang. I didn't need to look at the screen to know who it was. Eleanor, my mother-in-law, had a way of making her presence felt before she even spoke. When I answered, she skipped greetings and went straight to accusations. She said I was disrespectful, manipulative, ungrateful. She claimed I was turning Daniel against his family, poisoning him with lies. Her voice was calm, controlled, almost rehearsed, but terrified me more than anger ever could. I tried to respond, to explain, but she cut me off. "You've pushed too far," she said. "I'm done being patient." Then she hung up. I sat there for a long moment, phone still in my hand, my heart pounding for no clear reason. Eleanor had never liked me. From the day Daniel introduced us, she made it clear. I wasn't good enough, too independent, too quiet, too unwilling to bend. But this felt different. It felt like a warning. By midday, I understood what that warning meant. 2 black SUVs rolled into our driveway. Men in dark uniforms stepped out, wearing earpieces, their faces unreadable. Neighbors slowed their cars, curtains shifted. I stood, frozen near the door, my body buzzing with fear. Daniel came downstairs, confused by the noise. Before I could stop him, he opened the door. "We're here on behalf of Mrs. Eleanor Hayes," one of the men said calmly. Private security. The words didn't make sense at first. Private security belonged to celebrities, CEOs, politicians. Not my living room. They said they were there to ensure family safety and monitor a volatile domestic situation. My stomach dropped. Volatile, domestic, situation. I looked at Daniel, waiting for him to laugh, to tell them they had the wrong house. Instead, he frowned, uncertainty flickering across his face. Eleanor arrived minutes later in her luxury sedan, stepping out like she owned the street. She hugged Daniel tightly, whispering into his ear while keeping her eyes on me. I couldn't hear what she said, but I saw the effect immediately. His shoulders stiffened, his jaw tightened. She spent hours talking about me, about my mood swings, about my controlling behavior, about moments twisted and reshaped until I barely recognized my own life. Every time I tried to speak, she interrupted. Every time I defended myself, she sighed dramatically, like a mother exhausted by a troubled child. The security guards stood nearby, silent witnesses, their presence turning my home into a courtroom where I was already judged. That night, Daniel didn't ask for my side. He didn't hold my hand. He turned his back to me in bed, leaving inches between us that felt like miles. I stared into the dark, realizing something terrible. This wasn't concerned up, this was a takeover. The following days were unbearable. The security never left. They rotated shifts, always watching, always listening. I couldn't step outside without being asked where I was going. I couldn't make a phone call without feeling exposed. Our home, once a place of comfort, became a cage. Daniel changed slowly, then all at once. He questioned everything. Why I stayed up late, why I locked the bathroom door, why I looked nervous. Eleanor fed him doubts like poison disguised as love. One evening, I overheard her talking to him in the living room. I was standing on the stairs, holding my breath. She's unstable, Eleanor said softly. I didn't want to believe it either, Daniel. But I had to protect you. That's why I hired security. Protect him. From me, something inside me cracked. Fear drained away, replaced by clarity. Eleanor wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of losing control. She had controlled Daniel his entire life, and I was the first thing she couldn't bend. Daniel confronted me later. His voice was cold, careful, like he was speaking to a stranger. He asked if I had ever lied to him, if I had ever manipulated situations to isolate him from his family. If I was hiding something, I answered honestly. I told him everything, but doubt had already taken root. I need time, he said. That night, I slept in the guest room while his mother occupied my house, directing security like a general in enemy territory. What Eleanor didn't know was that I had started documenting everything. I recorded conversations. I saved messages. I wrote down dates, times, words. Not because I planned revenge, but because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. That this was real. The breaking point came unexpectedly one afternoon. While Eleanor was out shopping, one of the guards approached me quietly. He looked uncomfortable. He apologized. He told me he had reviewed the reports Eleanor filed about me, and none of them matched what he observed. She exaggerated everything, he said. Some things were completely false. I recorded that conversation. That night, I asked Daniel to sit with me. Just us, no Eleanor, no guards in the room. He hesitated, but he agreed. I played the recordings. I showed him messages Eleanor had sent me over the years. Threats, manipulation, guilt disguised as concern. I showed him proof that the volatile situation was fabricated. I watched his face crumble as truth replaced illusion. For the first time, he saw his mother not as a protector, but as a controller. When Eleanor returned home and realized she was losing grip, she exploded. She cried. She screamed. She blamed me for destroying the family. But the performance didn't work anymore. Daniel asked her to leave. The security left with her. The silence afterward was heavy but honest. Daniel apologized through tears, admitting he had let fear override trust. I forgave him, but forgiveness didn't erase the damage. Some wounds leave scars. No matter how gently they healed up, we rebuilt slowly. With boundaries. With therapy. With distance from Eleanor. She still tells people her version of the story, that I turned her son against her. That I was unstable. That she was the victim. But I know the truth. Power doesn't always wear a villain's face. Sometimes it wears. A mother's smile hires protection and convinces the world you are the danger. And surviving it doesn't make you stronger, It makes you awake. After Eleanor left, people assumed the nightmare was over. Friends told me to relax now that the problem was gone. Even Daniel believed the worst had passed. But control doesn't disappear just because someone walks out the door. It retreats. It waits, and then it finds another way back in. The first few weeks were deceptively calm. The house felt lighter without security guards watching my every move. Daniel tried harder than he ever had. He cooked dinner, asked how I felt, apologized again and again. Sometimes he woke up in the middle of the night shaking, whispering that he couldn't believe he almost lost me, but something in me had changed. I smiled, I forgave, I stayed, but I no longer felt safe in the way I once did. Trust, once cracked, never fully returns to its original shape. Then the letters started coming at first. They looked harmless, legal language. Polite phrases, Eleanor's name typed neatly at the bottom. She wanted visitation rights. She wanted access to Daniel. She wanted to check on our well-being. She framed it as concern, but every line carried the same message. I'm not done. Daniel tried to brush it off. He said his mother was emotional, embarrassed, desperate to save face. He promised he wouldn't let her back into our lives the same way. I wanted to believe him, but then his phone calls with her grew longer. He started stepping outside to talk. He lowered his voice. He said things like, "She didn't mean it that way, and she's still my mother." Each sentence felt like a thread pulling him slightly away from me. One night, after dinner, he admitted she had suggested mediation. Not family therapy, legal mediation. The word hit me like ice water. She says she wants peace, he said carefully. Closure. I looked at him and realized Eleanor wasn't just trying to reconnect. She was rewriting the story. If she could make this look mutual, like a misunderstanding, then her control would be restored quietly, legally, permanently. I refused. That's when the smear campaign began. People I barely knew started distancing themselves. Mutual friends stopped returning calls. Someone anonymously emailed Daniel's workplace, suggesting he was in a domestically unstable environment. Another message accused me of emotional abuse. I recognized Eleanor's fingerprints immediately. Daniel tried to defend me, but doubt crept back into his eyes. Not the explosive doubt from before, but something quieter and more dangerous. The kind that asks, what if there's some truth to this? I knew then that surviving Eleanor once wasn't enough. I had to end her influence completely. I contacted a liar. As we dug deeper, the pattern became clear. Eleanor had done this before. Not exactly like this, but close. Daniel's ex-girlfriend had left suddenly years ago, cutting off contact without explanation. When I reached out to her quietly, the truth surfaced that Eleanor had interfered, manipulated, threatened, controlled. I wasn't the first. The liar advised a restraining order, not just for me, but for our home, our workplaces, our digital lives. When Eleanor was served the papers, she exploded publicly. She cried on social media. She painted herself as a grieving mother whose son had been stolen. The comments were brutal. People I'd never met judged me without knowing my name. They called me controlling, cold, heartless. I learned how easy it is for a woman to be villainized when she refuses to submit. Daniel struggled. I could see it tearing him apart. Choosing me meant choosing separation from the woman who raised him. That kind of decision leaves scars no one talks about. One night, he admitted something that shattered me. She told me she would ruin us if I didn't talk to her, he whispered. She said she'd make sure everyone believed you were dangerous. I didn't cry. I felt numb. That was the moment I understood the truth fully. Eleanor didn't want her son back. She wanted obedience. We went to court. Eleanor sat across from us, perfectly dressed, calm, almost pleasant. She spoke softly, portraying herself as a misunderstood mother worried about her son's mental health. She never raised her voice. She never appeared angry, but evidence doesn't care about appearances, messages, recordings, witness statements, patterns. The judge listened carefully. When the ruling came, Eleanor lost more than access. She lost credibility. The court acknowledged her manipulative behavior. Contact restrictions were enforced. Any violation would carry consequences. For the first time, control slipped entirely from her hands. Daniel cried in the car afterward. Not from relief, but from grief. Grief for the mother he wished he had. Healing after that wasn't dramatic. It was slow, uncomfortable, honest. Therapy forced Daniel to confront years of emotional conditioning. Therapy forced me to confront how close I came to losing myself just to keep peace. We learned something painful but freeing. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's ownership. Eleanor faded from our lives, but the damage she caused taught me something I will never forget. Abuse doesn't always look violent. Sometimes it looks respectable. Sometimes it hides behind concern, money, authority. And smiles, Dot, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting back loudly, Dot. It's refusing to be controlled ever again.